Hey there, and welcome to MrEventide. Your only task tonight is to rest. To let your mind wander softly through something fascinating. Something hidden. Something that connects our entire world in ways most people never imagine. Tonight, let's softly explore a secret. A deep secret. Not hidden because anyone wants to conceal it, but hidden simply because it rests beneath the waves. In the darkness of the ocean, where most of us never look, we're going to discover how the internet really works, where it truly lives. And the answer might surprise you. But don't worry about remembering any of this. Just let the story wash over you like gentle waves. Let's begin with something most people believe. Picture in your mind what the internet looks like. When you think about how your messages travel, how videos stream to your device, how information flows around the world, what do you imagine? Most people imagine the internet as something wireless, something floating through the air, invisible waves carrying data from place to place. They picture satellites high above the Earth, beaming information down from space, signals bouncing through the atmosphere, everything light and ethereal, untethered from the physical world. The internet feels like magic, like something that exists in some intangible realm, disconnected from cables and wires and solid matter. This feels right, doesn't it? It matches our experience. We connect wirelessly to our devices. We speak of the cloud. We imagine data floating freely, unbound by physical constraints. It seems natural to assume that global communication happens the same way. Through the air, through space, through invisible pathways we can't see or touch. But here's the secret. The quiet truth that most people never discover. In reality, over 95% of all international data traffic travels through submarine fiber optic cables. Let that settle softly. Not through the air, not through satellites, but through cables. Physical cables, lying on the ocean floor, stretching across the seabed like silent highways of light. Picture this gently. Beneath the waves, beneath the ships sailing on the surface, beneath the swimming creatures and the swaying currents. Thousands of kilometers of cable rest on the ocean floor. These cables form the hidden physical backbone of the global internet. They connect continents, link countries, carry the overwhelming majority of data that flows between nations. Every email you send overseas, every video call across an ocean, every website you visit from another continent, all of it travels through these underwater pathways. The cloud feels weightless. We speak of data floating in some ethereal space. But the truth is more beautiful, more substantial. The cloud depends on solid glass threads lying on the ocean floor. Think about that gently. Your data, your messages, your videos. They travel as pulses of light through glass fibers no thicker than a hair, resting in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, connecting our world through the most ancient and mysterious realm on Earth. Now, satellites do exist, and they play their role. Don't misunderstand, but let this truth drift through your mind. They carry only a tiny fraction of global data, a small percentage. Satellites are wonderful for remote areas, for places cables cannot reach, for certain specialized communications. But for the vast rivers of data that flow constantly around our world, for the bulk of internet traffic, cables beneath the sea are far superior. Fiber optic cables offer far higher capacity than satellites. They can carry vastly more information, streaming endless videos, supporting millions of simultaneous connections, moving data at speeds that satellites struggle to match. And they offer lower latency, meaning signals arrive faster, travel more directly, experience less delay. The light traveling through underwater cables reaches its destination more quickly than signals bouncing up to space and back down again. And there's another advantage, whispered quietly in the world of telecommunications. These cables offer lower cost per bit. For every piece of information transmitted, undersea cables are more economical, more efficient. Once the cable is laid, the cost of sending each additional message, each video, each file, it's remarkably low. This economic reality shapes our world, determines how we connect, influences where cables are laid and how much capacity they provide. Everything flows through these hidden pathways. Let this understanding wash over you like a gentle tide. Your emails, those casual messages you send without thinking, they travel through cables on the ocean floor. Your video calls, connecting you with loved ones across continents. Carried by light through glass beneath the waves. Stock trades, happening in milliseconds, moving trillions of dollars, depending entirely on these submarine connections. Military communications, sensitive and secure, still traveling through the same physical infrastructure we all share. Financial transactions worth trillions of dollars per day depend on these cables. Picture the global economy. Money moving between countries. Trades executing across time zones. Markets connecting worldwide. All of this economic activity, this vast flow of wealth and commerce, it relies on cables lying peacefully on the seabed. In some ways, the entire modern financial system rests on the ocean floor, held up by glass threads and careful engineering. This infrastructure is so reliable that most people never think about it. And isn't that wonderful? The system works so consistently, so dependably, that it becomes invisible. You connect to the internet and it simply works. You don't wonder about the path your data takes. Don't consider the thousands of kilometers it might travel. Don't think about the ocean depths it crosses. The cables succeed by disappearing from consciousness. By being so reliable they require no thought, no worry, no attention. The internet's deepest secret is not in the sky. It is under the sea. Let this truth settle gently in your mind. While we look up at satellites, while we imagine wireless signals floating through space, the real work happens below. In darkness, in pressure, in cold water that sees no sunlight. There, on the seabed, rests the infrastructure that truly connects our world. The secret has been hidden in plain sight. Or rather, hidden beneath the waves, waiting quietly for anyone who cares to look down instead of up. Picture the ocean floor now. Vast, peaceful, largely unexplored. And across this quiet realm, cables stretch for thousands of kilometers, carrying our conversations, our ideas, our connections, our commerce. They rest there patiently, doing their work without complaint, without recognition, without anyone thinking about them. Just light pulsing through glass, traveling impossible distances, connecting continents through the deepest parts of our world. This is the foundation of our connected world, not floating ethereally in clouds or space, but resting solidly on the ocean floor. Physical, tangible, real. Cables that can be touched, though few ever do. Infrastructure that exists in a specific place, though most people never see it. The internet, for all its seeming magic, depends on this quiet, patient, physical reality. Light traveling through glass, across the seabed, beneath the waves. Let yourself rest now with this understanding, this gentle revelation. The internet is not what most people imagine. It's not wireless signals floating freely. It's cables. Kilometers upon kilometers of cables, lying on the ocean floor, carrying light, carrying data, carrying our connected world through the oldest, deepest, most mysterious realm on Earth. Rest with this image. The ocean floor stretching away in darkness. And across it, like veins carrying lifeblood, the cables connecting everything. Every continent, every country, every person online, all linked through glass threads beneath the sea. The deep secret, revealed softly. Surprisingly, the internet travels through the ocean, and most people never know. As we drift further into this story, let's travel back in time. Back before the internet existed. Back even before telephones. To the very beginning, when humans first dared to lay wires beneath the waves. This is a gentle story of ambition, of patience, of connecting distant shores through innovation and determination. Submarine communication began long ago, in the middle of the 19th century, with telegraph cables. Picture this era softly, a time when communication between distant places took weeks, when letters traveled by ship, when news from across an ocean arrived long after events had concluded. The world was vast, separated by distances that seemed almost unbridgeable. And then, humans began to wonder, what if we could send messages through wires beneath the sea? These early cables carried Morse code signals, not digital data, not telephone conversations, not anything resembling modern internet traffic, just simple electrical pulses, dots and dashes, representing letters, spelling out messages one character at a time. Tap, tap, tap. The patient clicking of telegraph keys, translated into electrical signals, sent through copper wires, received at the other end and decoded by skilled operators. It was slow by our standards, but miraculous for its time. The technology developed gradually, experimentally. By the late 1850s, over 30 submerged telegraph lines already linked parts of Europe. Picture these early cables, connecting Britain to France across the English Channel, linking Denmark to Sweden across narrow straits, joining islands to mainlands. Each cable a small triumph, proof that the concept worked, that electricity could travel through insulated wires beneath water, that distance could be conquered through engineering and determination. One of the earliest long cables ran 574 kilometers across the Black Sea. Imagine this achievement gently. A cable stretching across deep water, further than most people traveled in their entire lives. Laying it required careful planning, specialized ships, new techniques for unreeling cable from a vessel, for lowering it gently to the seabed, for ensuring it remained intact throughout the journey. This was pioneering work, each cable teaching lessons that would inform the next attempt. But the truly ambitious project, the one that captured imaginations worldwide, was the first transatlantic cable. In 1858, engineers attempted something that seemed almost impossible: linking Ireland to Newfoundland, connecting Europe to North America, bridging thousands of kilometers of open ocean. Picture the audacity of this vision. The Atlantic Ocean, vast and deep and often stormy, and humans proposing to lay a cable across its entire width. That cable used 7 copper wires insulated with something called gutta percha. Let these words drift through your mind. Gutta percha. Such an unusual name. It was a natural latex, a rubber-like substance harvested from tropical trees in Southeast Asia, sticky and waterproof when fresh, becoming tough and durable as it dried. This natural material, drawn from living trees in distant forests, became the key to insulating underwater cables, protecting copper from the corrosive salt water, allowing electricity to travel without leaking into the ocean. Picture the cable being manufactured. Copper wires twisted together, then wrapped carefully in layers of gutta percha. The insulation had to be perfect. Any weakness, any thin spot, could allow water to seep in, corrode the copper, interrupt the signal. Workers applied the gutta percha meticulously, understanding that the success of the entire project depended on their careful attention to every meter of cable. The cable-laying voyage was an adventure in itself, though we'll speak of it softly. Special ships loaded with coiled cable, sailing slowly across the Atlantic, unreeling the wire as they went, letting it sink to the seabed. The process was delicate. If the cable lowered too quickly, it might break under its own weight. Too slowly, and currents might carry the ship off course. The crew worked continuously, carefully, aware they were attempting something unprecedented. And then, success. After weeks of effort, the cable reached across the ocean. Messages could flow from Ireland to Newfoundland. Queen Victoria sent a telegram to President Buchanan. 98 words, taking 16 hours to transmit, but crossing the ocean nearly instantaneously compared to ships. The achievement was celebrated. Newspapers proclaimed a new era. The Atlantic Ocean had been bridged. But the triumph was brief. The 1858 Atlantic cable failed after only a few weeks. Picture this disappointment gently. After all that effort, all that expense, all that hope, the cable went silent. Messages stopped flowing. The connection was lost. What had worked perfectly at first, what had seemed like a permanent solution, proved fragile, temporary, vulnerable to problems the engineers hadn't fully anticipated. Insulation breakdown caused its collapse. The gutta percha had weaknesses. The manufacturing hadn't been perfect. Water seeped through tiny flaws. Salt corroded the copper beneath. The electrical resistance increased until signals could no longer pass through. And there was limited engineering knowledge. This was new territory. The engineers were learning as they went, making educated guesses, discovering through failure what would later become standard practice. But humans persisted. They studied what went wrong, improved the design, manufactured better cable. In 1866, A more robust cable finally succeeded. Picture this moment with quiet satisfaction. 8 years after the first attempt. After learning from failure. After refining every aspect of the process. A cable that worked. That lasted. That truly connected Europe and North America. For the first time, Europe and North America were reliably connected. Messages could flow continuously. News from one continent reached the other within hours. Business could be conducted across the ocean. Families separated by emigration could send brief but immediate messages. The Atlantic Ocean, which had always been a barrier, a space that took weeks to cross, became in some sense smaller, less separating, more easily bridged. The technology spread rapidly after that success. By 1872, just a few years later, every continent except Antarctica had submarine telegraph links. Picture a world being woven together. Africa connected to Europe. Asia linked to Europe through cables running through the Mediterranean and Red Sea. India connected to Britain. Australia joined to the network. Cables stretching across oceans, around coasts, linking colonial centers to distant territories, binding the world into a new kind of unity. Let yourself rest now with this beginning, this story of the first wires into the ocean, of copper and gutta percha, of failures and eventual success, of the world slowly, patiently, being connected through cables beneath the waves. This was long before the internet, long before modern telecommunications, but it was the foundation, the proof that submarine cables could work, that oceans could be crossed by wires, that distance could be conquered through patient engineering. Picture those early telegraph operators, sitting at their instruments, tapping out messages in Morse code, the signals traveling through cables on the ocean floor, copper wires insulated with tree latex, resting in darkness beneath thousands of meters of water, connecting continents, carrying dots and dashes, spelling out news and greetings and business communications. The beginning of everything. The first threads that would eventually become the vast network we depend on today. Rest with this history, this patient development, this proof that humans could connect distant places through underwater cables. The path being laid, one cable at a time, one connection at a time, building towards a future those early engineers could barely imagine. The internet beginning, though no one knew it yet, in copper wires and gutta percha beneath the Victorian waves. As we drift gently forward through time, let's see how those early telegraph cables evolved. How copper wires carrying Morse code slowly transformed into the sophisticated networks we depend on today. This wasn't a sudden leap, wasn't a revolutionary moment, but rather a gradual evolution. One improvement at a time, one decade flowing into the next. Through the early 20th century, telegraph cables evolved into telephone cables. Picture this transition happening slowly, gradually. The same basic concept. Insulated wires beneath the ocean, but now carrying voices instead of dots and dashes. Imagine the wonder of the first telephone calls across the Atlantic. Hearing someone's actual voice, their tone, their emotion, not just reading their words translated from Morse code. The ocean suddenly felt smaller still, more crossable, less separating. Materials improved with each passing year. Engineers learned from experience. discovered better insulating compounds, developed stronger protective layers. The gutta-percha of the early days gave way to improved materials. Reliability increased. Cables lasted longer, required less frequent repair. The failure rate that had plagued early systems declined steadily. Connecting continents became more dependable, more routine, less of a miraculous achievement and more of an expected service. And capacity slowly expanded. This is important to understand, and let it wash over you softly. Early cables could carry just one telegraph signal at a time. One message flowing through, then another, then another. Sequential, patient, limited. But engineers worked continuously on ways to send multiple signals simultaneously. Ways to squeeze more communication through the same physical cable. The technology advanced incrementally, each improvement adding just a bit more capacity. A few more simultaneous messages. A slightly better connection. In the 1950s, coaxial submarine cables appeared. Let this term drift through your mind without worry. Coaxial. It refers to a design where one conductor surrounds another, like a wire inside a tube. This design offered advantages: better shielding from interference, clearer signals, less noise and distortion. Picture these cables being manufactured, more complex than their predecessors, but enabling better communication, allowing more voices to travel simultaneously beneath the waves. These coaxial cables allowed clearer voice transmission. Telephone calls became more reliable, less affected by static and interference. You could hear the person on the other end more easily, understand their words without constant repetition. The quality improved enough that transatlantic phone calls, once reserved for the most important communications, gradually became more accessible, more common, still expensive, but possible for more people on more occasions, and they enabled more simultaneous calls. Think about this gently. Instead of one conversation at a time, cables could now carry dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of separate telephone calls, all flowing through the same physical cable, all traveling beneath the ocean simultaneously. The capacity of submarine cables grew year by year, decade by decade, always expanding, always improving, always carrying more communication between continents. But the true transformation arrived in the 1980s. Picture this period softly. The personal computer revolution was beginning. Digital communication was emerging, and a new technology was ready to change everything. Fiber optic cables. Not copper carrying electricity, but glass carrying light. This represented a fundamental shift, a completely different approach to submarine communication. Fiber optic submarine cables paved the way for the modern internet. They provided the capacity, the speed, the reliability needed for digital communication on a global scale. Without these cables, without this transition from copper to glass, from electricity to light, the internet as we know it couldn't exist. Email, web browsing, video streaming, video calls, all of it depends on fiber optic submarine cables connecting continents beneath the waves. Light replaced electricity as the carrier of information. Let this transformation settle in your mind. For more than a century, submarine cables had carried electrical signals. pulses of electricity flowing through copper. But now, light became the messenger, pulses of light traveling through glass. This change wasn't just an improvement. It was revolutionary. Light could carry vastly more information than electricity, could travel further with less signal loss, could be manipulated in ways electricity couldn't match. Picture this transition happening across the 1980s and 90s. New cables being laid, fiber optic instead of copper. While old copper cables continued working, new glass cables stretched alongside them, gradually taking over more of the traffic, eventually becoming dominant. The ocean floor became layered with different generations of technology, each representing a different era of human communication, all resting together in the darkness below. The ocean floor quietly became a global data highway. Think about this image. The seabed, once just rock and sand and sediment, now threaded with cables carrying humanity's digital conversations. The physical space of the ocean floor had been transformed, repurposed, become infrastructure, without anyone on the surface noticing. Without changing the appearance of the ocean, the floor beneath became the foundation of global connectivity. This evolution wasn't dramatic, wasn't sudden. Each step seemed modest at the time. Telegraph to telephone, telephone to data, copper to coaxial, coaxial to fiber optic. Each transition building on what came before, each improvement enabling new possibilities. The process took more than a century. From the 1850s to the 1980s, 130 years of patient development, of incremental progress, of engineers solving problems and building on previous solutions. Let yourself appreciate this gradual transformation, this patient evolution from Morse code to modern internet, from copper wires insulated with tree latex, to hair-thin glass fibers carrying light, from occasional telegrams taking hours to transmit, to streaming video flowing continuously across oceans. The technology changed completely, but the basic concept remained. Cables beneath the sea, connecting distant shores, carrying human communication through the depths. Picture those early telegraph engineers, working with copper and gutta percha. They couldn't have imagined fiber optic cables, couldn't have conceived of the internet, couldn't have dreamed of video streaming across oceans in real time. But their work made it all possible. Their proof that submarine cables could work, their establishment of routes and landing stations, their development of cable-laying techniques. All of it laid the foundation for everything that followed. And the process continues even now. Modern cables being laid today will seem primitive in decades to come. New technologies will emerge. Capacity will continue expanding. But the basic principle will likely remain. Cables beneath the ocean, connecting continents, carrying light through glass. The evolution that began in the 1850s. It hasn't ended. It continues quietly, patiently, incrementally improving, always building on what came before. Rest now with this understanding, this appreciation for gradual evolution, for patient development spanning more than a century and a half. The internet didn't appear suddenly. It grew from telegraph cables, through telephone systems, into digital networks, each generation building on the last, each era contributing its innovations, until we arrived at the sophisticated system we depend on today. All resting on the ocean floor, all descended from those first copper wires laid beneath the waves so long ago. Now let's drift into something beautiful, something almost magical. Let's gently explore how modern submarine cables actually work. How your messages travel across oceans. How light becomes information. How glass becomes a pathway for human connection. This is where technology becomes poetry, where physics becomes wonder. Modern submarine cables contain bundles of hair-thin glass fibers. Picture this in your mind. Not thick copper wires, not substantial conductors, but fibers as delicate as human hair, each one made of incredibly pure glass. So clear that if you could make a window from this glass several kilometers thick, you could still see through it. The purity is essential. Any imperfection would scatter the light, would interrupt the signal, would break the connection. These fibers carry pulses of light instead of electrical signals. Imagine this transformation. Your message, your video call, your email. It's converted into light. Rapid pulses, flashing on and off millions of times per second. Each pulse representing data, carrying information, traveling at the speed of light through glass. The signal enters one end of the cable, emerges at the other, having traveled thousands of kilometers in fractions of a second. Data becomes rapid flashes representing ones and zeros. Let this wash over you softly. Everything digital. Every file. Every message. Every video. It's ultimately just ones and zeros. Binary code. The light pulses represent this binary information. Light on equals 1. Light off equals 0. Or sometimes the opposite, depending on the system. But regardless, the principle remains. Information encoded as the presence or absence of light. Traveling through glass beneath the ocean. Light travels through glass by total internal reflection. This is beautiful physics, and we'll explore it gently. Imagine light entering the glass fiber. It travels down the center, the core, but when it reaches the edge, instead of escaping into the surrounding material, it reflects back inward, bounces off the boundary, continues traveling forward. This happens again and again. The light bouncing down the fiber like a ball bouncing down a corridor. Never escaping. Always moving forward. Always contained within the glass. The light bounces down the core for thousands of kilometers with minimal loss. Think about this miracle softly. Light entering a glass fiber in one country, bouncing internally countless times, and emerging thousands of kilometers away in another country. Still strong enough to be detected. Still carrying its information intact. The glass is so pure, the reflection so efficient, that the light can travel vast distances without fading significantly. This enables transoceanic communication, makes it possible to connect continents through single cables without interruption. But here's where it becomes even more remarkable. Each fiber carries multiple colors of light at once. Picture this gently. Not just one pulse of light, but many different colors. Each color carrying its own separate stream of data, all traveling together through the same hair-thin strand of glass. Red light carrying one conversation, blue carrying another, green carrying a third, all flowing simultaneously, all independent, all reaching their destination without interfering with each other. This technique is called wavelength division multiplexing. Don't worry about the technical term. Just understand the concept. Multiple wavelengths. Multiple colors. Multiplexed together. Combined in one fiber. It's like having multiple lanes on a highway, each carrying its own traffic, but all using the same road. This dramatically increases the capacity of each fiber, allows a single strand of glass to carry far more information than would otherwise be possible. Each color acts as a separate data channel. Imagine engineers assigning different types of communication to different colors. Perhaps video calls travel on red light, financial transactions on blue, email on green, web browsing on orange, all happening simultaneously, all flowing through the same fiber, all invisible to anyone looking at the cable, just light traveling through glass, but carrying the entire digital conversation of nations. A single cable system can carry tens of terabits per second. Let this number drift through your mind without trying to comprehend it fully. Terabits. Trillions of bits of information. Every second. Through one cable. This is enough capacity to stream millions of high-definition videos simultaneously, to handle billions of email messages, to support countless video calls, to move financial data worth trillions of dollars, all flowing through hair-thin glass fibers bundled together in one submarine cable. What feels instantaneous travels astonishing distances. When you send a message across an ocean, when you watch a video hosted on another continent, when you browse a website from halfway around the world, it feels immediate. Feels like the information appears instantly. But in reality, that data has traveled thousands of kilometers, has crossed an ocean, has bounced through glass fibers lying on the seabed. The journey is real. The distance is vast. But the speed of light makes it feel instantaneous. Picture one pulse of light beginning its journey. It starts at a landing station, perhaps in New York or London. It's converted from electrical signals into light, enters a glass fiber, and begins bouncing down the core. It travels beneath the waves, across the continental shelf, down into the deep ocean, across the abyssal plain, up the far continental shelf, until finally reaching land again thousands of kilometers away. The entire journey might take just a fraction of a second. Light traveling at its natural speed, crossing distances that would take ships days to traverse. Let yourself marvel gently at this technology, at the purity of the glass, at the precision of the equipment, at the physics that allows light to bounce through fibers for thousands of kilometers, at the ingenuity of sending multiple colors simultaneously, all of it working together, all of it reliable, all of it enabling the connected world we take for granted. The beauty is in the simplicity. Light and glass. Nothing more. No complex electronics in the ocean. No active components on the seabed. Just glass fibers carrying light. The sophistication is at the ends. In the equipment that converts signals to light and back. In the lasers that generate precise pulses. In the detectors that read the arriving signals. But in the ocean itself. Between continents. It's just light bouncing through glass. Simple. Elegant. Profoundly effective. This is how your messages travel. How your video calls cross oceans. How your data flows between continents. Converted to light. Pulsing through glass. bouncing down fibers lying on the seabed. Multiple colors carrying multiple streams, all moving at the speed of light, all arriving almost instantaneously despite traveling impossible distances. The internet, made of light and glass, resting quietly beneath the waves. Let these images drift through your mind now. Hair-thin glass fibers, light bouncing internally down their length. Multiple colors carrying separate channels of data. Pulses representing ones and zeros. Information becoming light. Light traveling through the ocean's darkness. Glass connecting continents. The physics and engineering combining into something that seems almost magical, but is actually solid, real, physical, lying on the ocean floor, carrying our connected world through the depths. Rest now with this understanding, this appreciation for the elegance of fiber optic technology, for light as messenger, for glass as pathway, for the beautiful physics that allows total internal reflection, for the ingenuity of wavelength division multiplexing, all of it enabling communication at speeds and capacities that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. All of it resting peacefully on the seabed, doing its quiet work, connecting our world through light beneath the waves. As we drift deeper into understanding, let's explore a gentle challenge and its elegant solution. Even light, traveling through the purest glass, faces a problem over very long distances. And the solution, as always with submarine cables, is both ingenious and peaceful. Let's discover together how light is kept alive on its transoceanic journey. Light signals weaken over long distances. This is simply physics. Unavoidable. Picture light pulses entering a fiber, strong and clear. As they travel, bouncing down the glass, they gradually lose intensity, grow dimmer, fade slightly with each kilometer. The glass is incredibly pure. The loss is minimal. But over hundreds of kilometers, over thousands of kilometers, the dimming becomes significant. Eventually, without intervention, the signal would become too weak to detect, too faint to carry information reliably. This presents a challenge for submarine cables, especially those crossing entire oceans. The Atlantic, the Pacific. These are vast distances, thousands upon thousands of kilometers of open water. A light signal that begins strong enough in New York would arrive far too weak in London, would fade to nothing long before reaching the other shore. The information would be lost, the connection impossible, without some way to strengthen the signal along its journey. And so optical repeaters are placed every 50 to 100 kilometers. Picture these devices gently. Small stations along the cable, sitting on the ocean floor, spaced regularly like markers on a path, each one performing a simple but essential task. Receiving the weakened light signal, amplifying it, restoring it to full strength, then sending it onwards to the next repeater. The signal travels from repeater to repeater, always refreshed, always maintained at sufficient strength to continue its journey. These repeaters amplify signals so they survive transoceanic journeys. Think about this softly. A message leaving New York. It passes through perhaps 30 or 40 repeaters on its way to London. At each one, the fading light is strengthened, renewed, given the energy to continue. The repeaters form a chain, each link essential, each one enabling the signal to reach its destination clear and strong despite traveling thousands of kilometers through glass beneath the ocean. But here's a question that might drift through your mind. How do these repeaters work? They're sitting on the ocean floor, in complete darkness, under immense pressure, kilometers below the surface. What powers them? How do they receive the energy they need to amplify signals continuously? Year after year, decade after decade, the answer is elegant. Power for the repeaters comes from the cable itself. Picture the cable structure. Not just glass fibers, but also a copper or metal conductor running through the cable's core. This conductor doesn't carry data, doesn't transmit information. Its purpose is purely to deliver electrical power, to provide energy to the repeaters along the cable's length. The cable becomes both communication channel and power line, both pathway for data and conduit for electricity. Electricity is fed from landing stations on shore. Imagine the landing stations at each end of a cable. On land, connected to the electrical grid. They generate the power needed to run all the repeaters. Then they push this electricity through the conductor in the cable. The electricity flows outward from both ends, meeting somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Each landing station powers the repeaters on its half of the cable. The system is balanced, stable, designed to work continuously. There is effectively no independent power source on the seabed. The repeaters have no batteries, no generators, no local power supply. They depend entirely on electricity flowing from land. This creates both simplicity and vulnerability. Simplicity because there's nothing to replace. No batteries to die. No fuel to run out. The power flows continuously from shore. Vulnerability because if the power fails, if the conductor breaks, if the landing station loses electricity, the repeaters stop working. The signals fail. The cable goes dark. Energy flows quietly from land to the depths. Picture this invisible river of electricity, flowing outward from shore, through the conductor in the cable, spreading across kilometers, tens of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers, reaching repeaters deep beneath the ocean. Each repeater drawing just enough power to amplify the light signals passing through. The electricity enabling the light. The power sustaining the connection. All flowing silently, invisibly, from the familiar world of land into the mysterious realm of the deep sea. The system works continuously, without pause. Think about this gently. Every moment of every day, electricity flows from land stations, travels through submarine cables, powers repeaters on the ocean floor. Those repeaters amplify light signals. Those signals carry data. That data connects our world. The system never rests, never stops, never takes a break. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year after year. The quiet work continues, unnoticed by almost everyone, essential to everything we do online. Picture a single repeater sitting on the seabed, encased in a protective housing, sealed against the crushing pressure, shielded from the cold water. Inside, electronic components receive weakening light signals, amplify them back to full strength, send them onwards. And all of this powered by electricity flowing through the cable from thousands of kilometers away. The repeater asks nothing, needs nothing except that steady flow of power. It simply does its work. Patiently, reliably, invisibly, in darkness that has never known sunlight. These repeaters are designed to last decades. Think about this softly. Once a cable is laid, once the repeaters are installed on the seabed, they must work for 20 or 30 years or more. There's no easy way to service them. No simple method for repair. The ocean floor isn't accessible for routine maintenance. So the repeaters must be extraordinarily reliable, built to withstand pressure, to resist corrosion, to function flawlessly for decades in conditions humans can barely survive. Engineers design these devices with care, with redundancy, with backup systems, with components that can fail without bringing down the entire repeater. They test them rigorously before deployment, subject them to simulated deep ocean conditions, verify they can withstand the pressure, the cold, the isolation. Only when engineers are confident will a repeater be allowed to descend to the seabed, to take its place in the chain of amplification that keeps signals alive across oceans. Failures are rare, but never impossible. Let this truth settle gently. The system is reliable. Remarkably so. Cables can operate for decades without significant problems. Repeaters function year after year without intervention. But nothing built by humans is perfect. Sometimes a repeater fails. Sometimes a cable breaks. Sometimes the power supply is interrupted. When this happens, traffic must reroute, must find alternative paths. The global network is resilient enough to handle individual failures. But each cable remains vulnerable to the challenges of the ocean environment. Picture the journey of power and light together. Electricity flowing from land stations, traveling through copper conductors, reaching repeaters spaced along the cable. At each repeater, that electricity enables amplification, allows weakened light to be strengthened, permits the signal to continue its journey. The light travels forwards from repeater to repeater, growing faint, being refreshed, growing faint again, being refreshed again, crossing oceans through this patient process of travel and renewal. Each repeater essential, each one a link in the chain connecting continents. The repeaters work in darkness, in pressure that would crush most human-made objects, in cold that would freeze anything not protected. They see no maintenance, receive no attention, encounter no human presence after they are deployed. They simply exist on the seabed, doing their quiet work, amplifying signals, enabling communication, connecting our world through their patient, invisible service. Think about the reliability required. A single cable might have 40 or 50 repeaters along its length. All must work continuously. All must perform their task without failure. If even one fails completely, the cable might become unusable. The connection might be lost. So each repeater represents years of engineering, testing, refinement. Each one is built to be as reliable as human ingenuity can achieve, knowing it must work flawlessly in an environment humans cannot easily access. Let yourself appreciate the elegance of this system. Power flowing from land, repeaters amplifying light at regular intervals, signals maintained across impossible distances, all of it working together. All of it designed to function autonomously, to require no intervention, to simply work, year after year, enabling the global internet through patient, reliable operation on the ocean floor. The system succeeds through simplicity. There are no moving parts in the repeaters, no motors, no mechanisms that wear out quickly, just solid-state electronics, components that can function for decades if properly designed. The power flows steadily. The light pulses continuously. The amplification happens automatically. Everything designed to be as simple as possible, as reliable as possible, as maintenance-free as possible. Picture one message making its transoceanic journey. It begins at a landing station, is converted to light, enters the cable, travels through glass, gradually weakens, reaches the first repeater, is amplified back to full strength, travels onwards, weakens again, reaches the next repeater, is amplified again. This pattern repeats dozens of times. The message traveling from repeater to repeater, each one giving it new life, new strength, enabling it to continue until it finally reaches the distant shore. The journey that feels instantaneous actually involves this careful choreography of weakening and strengthening. This patient process of maintaining signal integrity across thousands of kilometers. And all of this happens invisibly. The repeaters do their work without anyone watching, without anyone knowing, without anyone appreciating their constant service. They simply exist on the seabed, powered by electricity from distant shores, amplifying light signals that carry our connected world. Let these images rest in your mind now. The repeaters spaced along the cable like way stations on an ancient road, each one receiving weakened signals, strengthening them, sending them onwards. The electricity flowing from land, traveling thousands of kilometers through conductors, powering these distant devices. The light traveling from repeater to repeater, never fading completely, always refreshed just in time, crossing oceans through this patient partnership of power and amplification. This is how signals stay alive across transoceanic distances. This is how your data survives journeys of thousands of kilometers. Through repeaters amplifying light, through power flowing from shore, through engineering designed to work flawlessly for decades in the deepest, most challenging environment on Earth. The system is elegant, reliable, and almost entirely forgotten by those who benefit from it every day. Rest now with this understanding, this appreciation for the repeaters on the ocean floor, for the power flowing through submarine cables, for the careful balance of light and electricity that enables global communication. All of it working continuously, all of it designed to be invisible, all of it essential to the connected world we inhabit. The light kept alive, the signals maintained, the connection preserved through patient engineering resting peacefully beneath the waves. Let yourself drift now, knowing that beneath the ocean, in darkness and silence, these remarkable devices continue their work. They ask nothing, expect nothing. They simply amplify light, maintain connections, enable conversations between distant shores. The repeaters rest on the seabed, doing what they were built to do, year after year, decade after decade, keeping the light alive, keeping the world connected, keeping the internet flowing through the deep secret pathways beneath the sea. As we drift deeper into the ocean, deeper into understanding, let's discover how these delicate glass fibers survive in one of Earth's harshest environments. How something as fragile as hair-thin glass can rest on the seabed for decades, enduring pressure, enduring currents, enduring the unpredictable nature of the ocean itself. The answer lies in layers, in careful protection, in engineering that shields the fragile within the strong. Only a small fraction of a cable is actually glass. Let this surprise you gently. When you picture a submarine cable, you might imagine mostly fiber, mostly the light-carrying glass that does the actual work. But in truth, the glass fibers are just a tiny core, a delicate center surrounded by far more substantial materials. The fibers themselves are almost invisible within the cable's structure, protected, cushioned, kept safe by everything built around them. Most of the cable's thickness is protective material. Picture this in layers, like the rings of a tree, or the layers of an onion, each layer serving a purpose, each one adding strength, adding resilience, adding defense against the countless threats a cable might face over decades on the ocean floor. The engineering isn't in the glass fibers themselves. Those are relatively simple. The engineering is in the protection, in creating armor that can keep those delicate fibers safe in the abyss. The layers include plastic sheathing, water barriers, steel wires. Think about each of these softly. Plastic sheathing closest to the fibers, providing immediate cushioning, keeping moisture away, maintaining the delicate environment the glass needs. Then water barriers, multiple layers designed to prevent any seawater from reaching the inner core. Water is the enemy here, corrosive, invasive, always seeking entry. And finally, steel wires, wound around the outside, providing mechanical strength, able to withstand tension and pressure. In shallow water, thick steel armor protects against anchors and fishing gear. Picture the coastal areas, where ships drop anchor, where fishing trawlers drag their nets across the seabed, where human activity is constant and potentially dangerous. Here, cables need substantial protection. The steel armor in shallow water is robust, substantial, making the cable several centimeters thick, heavy enough to resist being cut by a dragging anchor, strong enough to survive a trawler net catching and pulling. Near shore, extra layers are added where risks are highest. The engineering adapts to danger, recognizes that the first few kilometers from land are the most vulnerable, where boats are most common, where construction happens, where storms can shift sediments and expose cables. In these critical zones, cables might have double armor, triple layers of protection, whatever is needed to ensure they survive in the busiest, most hazardous parts of their journey. Cables may be buried 1 to 3 meters beneath the seabed. Picture this additional protection. Not just armor around the cable, but Earth itself providing a shield. In shallow coastal waters, cables are often trenched, buried beneath the sand or mud, out of sight, out of reach of anchors and nets, protected by the weight of sediment above them. This burial isn't always possible, but where it is, it dramatically reduces the risk of damage. Plows or jetting tools help cover them with sediment. Imagine the cable laying process in shallow water. Special equipment attached to underwater vehicles or dragged behind ships. Plows that cut furrows in the seabed. Or jetting tools that blast water to create temporary trenches. The cable is laid into these channels, And then, often within hours or days, ocean currents naturally refill the trench. Sediment settles back over the cable, hiding it, protecting it, returning the seabed to something like its natural state. But in deep ocean basins, cables are lighter and thinner. Let this contrast wash over you gently. In the deep ocean, thousands of meters down, the cable design changes dramatically. Less armor, thinner construction. The cable might be just a few centimeters in diameter, almost delicate compared to its shallow water cousins. This isn't carelessness. It's recognition that different environments require different solutions. Human activity is minimal at great depths. Think about why the cable can be thinner in deep water. No ships anchor in the abyssal plains. No fishing nets drag across the ocean floor kilometers below the surface. No construction disturbs the ancient sediments of the deep. The threats that require heavy armor in shallow water simply don't exist in the abyss. And so the cable can be lighter, easier to handle during deployment, less expensive to manufacture and lay. Even so, cables remain only a few centimeters thick. Picture holding one in your hands. Not the massive industrial infrastructure you might imagine, but something surprisingly modest. A cylinder perhaps as thick as your thumb or a bit larger. Within this small diameter, all the glass fibers, all the power conductors, all the protective layers, everything needed to connect continents, to carry terabits of data, to enable global communication, compressed into something you could almost, though you shouldn't, bend with your hands. Let yourself appreciate the elegance of this design, the adaptation to environment, the recognition that protection must match threat. Heavy armor where danger is high. Light construction where the ocean itself provides protection through depth and remoteness. The cable becoming thicker or thinner depending on where it rests. Always balancing protection against practicality. Always ensuring the fragile glass core survives to do its essential work. Picture a cable's journey from shore to shore, beginning with heavy armor, thick steel, multiple layers, as it leaves the landing station and enters shallow coastal waters. Gradually, as the water deepens, as human activity becomes less likely, the cable transitions, the armor reduces, the thickness decreases, until in the deep ocean, crossing the abyssal plains, it reaches its slimmest form. And then, approaching the far shore, it thickens again, gains armor again, prepares for the dangers of shallow water once more. This variation in design, this adaptation along the cable's length, it represents thoughtful engineering. Recognition that one solution doesn't fit all conditions. That cables must be protected where threats exist, but can be simplified where the ocean's depth provides natural security. The result is a cable that changes character along its route. Thick and armored where it needs to be. Thin and light where it can be. The glass fibers themselves never change. They remain constant. Delicate, hair-thin throughout the entire length. What changes is the protection around them, the layers that shield them from harm, the armor that adapts to circumstance. And this protection works. Cables survive for decades. Despite the harsh environment, despite the pressure, despite everything the ocean can inflict, they endure. They function. They carry light across the seabed year after year. Let these images rest in your mind now. The layers of protection around delicate glass. The steel armor in shallow water. The buried cables hidden beneath sediment. The lighter construction in the deep ocean. All of it designed. All of it purposeful. All of it ensuring that fragile fibers carrying light can survive in the abyss. The engineering that makes submarine cables possible. Not flashy. Not obvious. Just thoughtful protection allowing delicate technology to exist in brutal conditions. Rest now with this understanding. This appreciation for protection. 4 layers that shield. 4 armor that adapts. The submarine cable is mostly defense. Mostly protection. With just a tiny core of delicate glass doing the actual work of communication. But that protection is essential. Without it, the glass would shatter. The connection would fail. The ocean would reclaim what humans tried to place there. The armor for the abyss. Built layer by layer. Designed depth by depth. Ensuring that light can travel through glass beneath the ocean. Protected. Shielded. Kept safe. Enabling the deep secret to continue. The internet flowing through the sea. Defended by steel and plastic and careful engineering. Surviving decades in darkness. Connecting our world through patient. Protected infrastructure resting on the ocean floor. Now let's drift into the remarkable process of creation. Of how these cables come to rest on the ocean floor. The journey from planning to completion is itself a kind of voyage. One that requires specialized ships, careful navigation, and patience measured in weeks. Let's explore gently how humans lay cables across the planet. Specialized cable-laying ships deploy thousands of kilometers of cable. Picture these vessels. Not ordinary cargo ships, but purpose-built craft designed for one specific task. They carry enormous spools of cable in their holds. Kilometers upon kilometers wound in huge coils. The ships themselves are floating warehouses, carrying the infrastructure that will connect continents. Moving slowly across oceans, unreeling cable as they go, before the ship ever leaves port. Before the first meter of cable enters the water, extensive planning happens. Seabed surveys use sonar to map safe routes. Imagine survey vessels crossing back and forth across potential paths, sending sound waves to the ocean floor, listening to the echoes, building detailed maps of the underwater landscape. Every ridge, every valley, every feature of the seabed mapped and recorded, creating the knowledge needed to choose the safest, most practical route. Engineers avoid faults, volcanoes, and steep underwater terrain. Let this careful selection wash over you. The ocean floor isn't flat, isn't uniform. It's a landscape as varied as any on land, with mountains and valleys, cliffs and plains, active volcanic zones and earthquake-prone faults. The cable route must thread between these hazards, must find the gentlest path, must avoid areas where geological activity might damage the cable in years to come. Think about the planning involved. Teams studying maps, debating routes, calculating risks. A fault line might be impossible to avoid entirely, so the cable crosses at the least active point. A volcanic region must be skirted, the route detailing around potential danger. Steep slopes are avoided because cables might slide, might be damaged by underwater landslides. Every decision made carefully. knowing the cable must last decades with minimal interventio. Once the route is planned, once the surveys are complete, the cable-laying ship begins its careful journey. Ships move slowly, carefully paying out cable. Picture this process. The ship sailing at perhaps 8 or 10 kilometers per hour, barely faster than a walking pace. From the stern, cable unreels constantly, descending into the water, sinking towards the seabed below. The process must be steady, controlled, maintaining just the right speed and tension. In shallow water, trenches are cut and refilled naturally. As the ship approaches land, as the water becomes shallower, the process becomes more complex. Equipment on the seabed, either remotely operated or towed behind the ship, cuts furrows, creates channels for the cable to rest in. The cable is laid into these trenches, and then ocean currents, tides, and natural sediment movement gradually fill them in, covering the cable, protecting it beneath the seabed. In deep water, cables rest directly on the seabed, but out in the open ocean, where depths reach thousands of meters, trenching isn't practical, isn't necessary. The cable simply settles onto the ocean floor, resting on sediment that may not have been disturbed for thousands of years. Picture it falling gently through the water column, taking perhaps an hour to reach the bottom in the deepest areas, finally settling into position where it will rest, perhaps forever. Some sections descend more than 9,000 meters. Let this depth settle in your mind. 9 kilometers down, in the deepest trenches, the very deepest parts of the ocean, cables must traverse these abyssal depths. The pressure there is crushing. Hundreds of atmospheres. Enough to compress most materials, to destroy most human technology. But the cable descends, protected by its layers, and comes to rest even in these most extreme environments. Tension must be carefully controlled at all times. This is critical, essential to the process. Too much tension and the cable might break under its own weight, might snap as it descends. Too little tension and it might form loops on the seabed, might tangle, might create problems that won't be discovered until much later. The ship's crew monitors tension constantly, adjusting speed, adjusting the rate of cable deployment, maintaining that perfect balance. A single transoceanic cable can take weeks to lay. Picture the patience required. Weeks at sea, moving at walking pace, unreeling cable continuously, the crew working in shifts, monitoring equipment, watching tension gauges, navigating carefully to stay on the planned route. It's not dramatic work, not exciting in the way storms or adventures are exciting. It's patient, methodical, demanding sustained attention and care over long periods. Weather adds its own complications. Storms must be avoided or waited out. The cable-laying ship can't operate in rough seas, can't maintain proper tension when waves are high. So sometimes the ship must pause, must ride out bad weather, must wait for calm before continuing. This patience is built into the schedule, expected, accepted as part of the process of laying infrastructure across the ocean. Once placed, cables are expected to last decades. Think about the commitment this represents. Once the cable settles on the seabed, once the ship moves on, That cable should function for 20 or 30 years or more. All the careful planning, all the slow deployment, all the attention to detail. It's all in service of creating infrastructure that will endure, that will serve reliably for a generation, connecting continents long after the ship and crew have moved on to other projects. Picture the moment when a cable is finally complete. The ship reaches the far shore. The last meters of cable are brought to land, connected to the landing station, tested, and suddenly, a new pathway exists. A connection that didn't exist before. 2 continents, or 2 countries, or 2 regions, linked by glass and light lying on the ocean floor. The accomplishment is quiet, isn't celebrated with fanfare, but it's real, substantial, a new thread in the web connecting our world. Let yourself appreciate the scale of this undertaking. The specialized ships, the careful planning, the weeks at sea moving at walking pace, the precision required to maintain proper tension, the challenge of descending into the deepest parts of the ocean. All of it necessary, all of it demanding expertise and patience, all of it resulting in infrastructure that becomes invisible once completed, taken for granted, forgotten except by those who maintain it. The laying of submarine cables is an adventure that happens in slow motion. Not the dramatic voyages of exploration or naval battles, but something equally remarkable in its way. The patient work of connecting distant shores. The careful navigation across underwater landscapes. The technical precision of deployment. All done quietly, competently, by specialized ships and experienced crews who understand that haste would risk everything. Rest now with these images. The cable-laying ship moving slowly across the ocean. Cable unreeling continuously, descending through the water column, settling onto the seabed. The weeks of careful work. The navigation around hazards. The tension constantly monitored. All of it building towards the moment when a new connection comes alive. When light first travels through the newly laid cable. When 2 distant places suddenly become linked through infrastructure lying peacefully on the ocean floor. Let this understanding drift through your mind. The process of laying cables across the planet. The combination of planning and execution. The patience of weeks spent at sea. The precision of maintaining perfect tension. The result? A connection that will last decades. Carrying conversations. Carrying data. Carrying the digital life of nations through glass fibers resting where the ship left them. In darkness. In pressure. On the ocean floor. As we drift into reality, let's acknowledge that even the best engineering sometimes fails. Even well-protected cables resting peacefully on the seabed can break, can fail, can require intervention. But the story of cable breaks is also a story of resilience, of quick response, of systems designed to heal themselves. Let's explore gently how the network survives its quiet emergencies. When a cable breaks, operators detect signal loss. Picture the monitoring stations. Computers tracking every cable, watching the flow of light, the quality of signals. Suddenly, data stops arriving. The light goes dark. Alarms sound softly in control rooms. Technicians notice immediately. The break might be thousands of kilometers away, deep beneath the ocean, but its effects are felt instantly in the monitoring equipment on shore. Timing measurements help locate the fault. This is beautiful science. Engineers send test signals into the cable. Light pulses that should bounce back from the break. By measuring how long the light takes to return. By calculating the distance it traveled before encountering the break. They can estimate where along the cable's length the fault occurred. The measurement might not be perfectly precise, but it narrows the search area, gives the repair ship a place to start. Repair ships sail to the estimated location. Picture these vessels, similar to cable-laying ships, equipped with the tools and equipment needed for repair. They carry spare cable, splicing equipment, grappling hooks, everything necessary to fix the break. The journey to the fault site might take days, especially if the break is in the middle of an ocean. But the ship sails, making its way to where the damaged cable waits on the seabed. Grapnels hook the cable from the seabed. Imagine this process gently. The repair ship positioned above the estimated break location. Grappling hooks. Heavy devices with multiple arms. Lowered on thick ropes or cables. Dragged slowly across the seabed. The crew waits patiently, hoping to snag the cable, to feel the distinctive catch when the grapnel hooks onto it. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts, multiple passes. The cable is small, the ocean floor vast, but eventually, the grapnel catches, holds, and the cable can be raised. The damaged section is hauled aboard. Think about this carefully. Slowly, the cable is pulled up from the seabed, sometimes from thousands of meters depth. The process takes hours. The ship's machinery working steadily, pulling hand over hand in a mechanical sense, raising the cable meter by meter until finally the break emerges from the water. The damaged section visible, perhaps snapped cleanly, perhaps frayed, perhaps showing signs of whatever caused the failure. New cable segments are spliced in. Picture the work on deck. Technicians carefully cutting away the damaged portion, preparing the cable ends. Clean cuts, precise measurements, then introducing new cable, connecting it to both severed ends. The work requires skill, precision. Each fiber must be aligned perfectly, each connection tested. The splice must be as transparent to light as possible, must allow signals to pass through with minimal loss. Each splice is sealed and re-armored. The optical work is just the beginning. Once the fibers are connected, once light can flow through the repair, the splice must be protected, sealed against water, wrapped in protective materials, reinforced with armor that matches the surrounding cable. The goal is to make the repair as strong as the original cable, to ensure this section won't be the next failure point. The splice becomes a permanent part of the cable, indistinguishable from the rest once it returns to the seabed. Then comes the return. The repaired cable lowered back to the ocean floor. The process as careful as the initial laying. Tension controlled. The cable descending through the water column, finally settling back onto the seabed, hopefully in nearly the same position it occupied before. The repair ship moves on. The cable resumes its quiet service. Light flows once again through the repaired section. Data resumes crossing the ocean. The emergency resolved. Deep water repairs can take weeks. Let this timeline wash over you. From detecting the break, to dispatching the repair ship, to reaching the site, to grappling the cable, to making the repair, to returning it to service. The entire process might span 2 or 3 weeks. During that time, traffic reroutes, uses alternate cables. The network compensates, adapts, but eventually, the repaired cable returns to service, adding its capacity back to the global network. Busy coastal areas see repeated damage. Think about certain regions gently. Areas with heavy shipping traffic, regions with active fishing industries, places where human activity constantly threatens cables. These zones might experience multiple breaks per year. The same cable damaged repeatedly, repaired repeatedly. The cost of these repairs is substantial, both in money and in the disruption to service. Yet the cables are essential, so the repair work continues. Patient, necessary, ongoing. Redundant routes keep data flowing during repairs. This is the key to resilience. No critical connection depends on a single cable. Major routes have multiple cables, parallel paths. If one breaks, traffic immediately switches to alternatives. Users might not even notice, might experience no interruption. The network is designed with this redundancy, this ability to route around damage. It's not perfect, not unlimited, but it provides remarkable resilience against individual failures. Picture the global network with this understanding. Cables crossing oceans, multiple routes between continents, each one vulnerable, each one subject to breaks, but the system as a whole robust, able to survive individual failures, able to heal, able to continue functioning even when components fail. This is the true achievement. Not that cables never break, but that the network survives their breaking, adapts, repairs, continues. The repair crews deserve quiet recognition. The technicians who go to sea for weeks, who work in all weather, who perform delicate optical work on ship decks, who ensure that breaks are fixed, that service is restored. Their work is unglamorous, unseen by the billions who benefit from it. But it's essential. Without repair ships and skilled crews, the submarine cable network couldn't function. Every break would be permanent. Every failure would reduce capacity forever. Let yourself rest with this resilience. This understanding that failure is expected, but not fatal. That breaks happen, but repairs follow. That the network is designed to survive, to adapt, to continue even when individual components fail. The submarine cable system isn't perfect, isn't invulnerable, but it's robust, flexible, capable of healing itself through human intervention, through repair ships, through patient technical work in the middle of oceans. Rest now with these images. The monitoring stations detecting failures, the repair ships sailing to distant locations, grapnels dragging across the seabed, cable hauled slowly from the depths, skilled hands making precise splices, the repaired cable returning to service, all of it part of the ongoing maintenance, the constant care. That keeps the global network functioning despite the inevitable challenges of operating infrastructure in the ocean's harsh environment. As we drift through understanding, let's explore the threats these cables face. The dangers, both natural and human, that can disrupt the infrastructure connecting our world. But we'll discover these challenges gently, seeing both vulnerability and resilience. understanding risks whilst appreciating the systems built to manage them. Fishing trawls and ship anchors cause most damage near shore. Let this settle softly. The greatest threats to submarine cables come not from the mysterious depths, but from ordinary human activity in shallow waters. Picture a fishing vessel dragging its trawl net across the seabed. Not knowing a cable rests below, the net catches, pulls. The cable, despite its armor, can be damaged or severed. Or a ship dropping anchor in fog. The heavy anchor crashing down, landing atop a cable, crushing or cutting it as the ship swings on its anchor chain. These incidents happen more often than you might imagine. Dozens of times per year worldwide. Usually without malice. Without awareness. Just ordinary maritime activities intersecting unfortunately with buried or seabed infrastructure. The ships involved often don't even realize they've damaged a cable. They sail away, and only later do operators detect the break. Only later does a repair ship come to fix the damage. The ocean floor becoming a place where human activities accidentally collide. Earthquakes and submarine landslides can snap cables. Nature provides its own threats. Picture the ocean floor along tectonic plate boundaries, where the Earth's crust shifts, grinds, releases tension. An earthquake strikes. The seabed moves. Cables stretched across the fault zone can snap like threads. Multiple cables sometimes breaking simultaneously if they follow similar routes through active areas. The damage can be extensive. Repairs taking weeks or months as multiple cables need attention. Or imagine a submarine landslide. Sediments on a continental slope. Destabilized by an earthquake or simply by accumulated weight. Suddenly sliding downwards. An underwater avalanche of mud and sand. Moving with surprising speed. Cables in its path can be buried. Twisted. Broken. The landslide might affect hundreds of kilometers. Might damage multiple cables. Might create challenges that take months to fully repair. Deepwater hazards are rarer but more dramatic. Let this wash over you. Most damage happens in shallow water, but the deep ocean isn't entirely safe. Volcanic eruptions on the seafloor. Hydrothermal vents opening in new locations. Deep currents shifting sediments in unexpected ways. These events are uncommon, but they remind us that even thousands of meters down, even in the supposedly stable abyssal plains, the ocean floor remains dynamic, unpredictable, capable of affecting the infrastructure resting there. Marine animals occasionally interact with cables. Picture this gently. A shark biting a cable, mistaking it perhaps for prey, or simply curious. Shark bites on cables have been documented. The tooth marks visible when damaged sections are recovered. Or whales brushing against cables as they feed near the seabed. These interactions rarely cause serious damage. The cables are too tough, too well protected. But they are reminders that cables exist in a living environment, shared with creatures who sometimes notice these strange artificial additions to their realm. Geopolitical tensions raise fears of sabotage. We must acknowledge this concern, though we'll discuss it softly. Submarine cables are strategic infrastructure, essential to communication, to commerce, to the functioning of modern nations. During times of conflict or tension, cables become potential targets. The possibility of deliberate damage, of sabotage, it exists. Though instances are rare, The threat shapes security planning, influences where cables are laid, affects how they are monitored and protected. Governments treat cables as strategic infrastructure. Military forces include them in planning. Security services monitor cable routes. Nations recognize that their digital connectivity depends on these physical links. And this changes how cables are considered. They are not just commercial infrastructure. They are national assets, critical to security, to economic functioning, to the ability to communicate in crisis. This recognition shapes policy, influences regulation, affects international cooperation on cable protection. New mapping standards track cable routes precisely. Picture the detailed records now maintained. Every cable's position documented, shared with relevant authorities, available to ships and construction companies. The goal is to prevent accidental damage, to ensure that ships know where cables lie, that construction projects don't unwittingly dig where cables rest. These maps are increasingly precise, increasingly available, part of a broader effort to protect infrastructure through awareness. Construction projects must coordinate with cable owners. When a port expands, when offshore wind farms are built, when pipelines are laid, when any major seabed construction occurs, cable owners must be consulted, routes must be checked, protections must be planned. The cable owners sometimes reroute cables, sometimes add extra protection, sometimes simply monitor to ensure construction doesn't cause damage. This coordination is imperfect, but it reduces risk, helps protect infrastructure that's expensive and time-consuming to repair. Environmental rules govern cable installation. Regulations address how cables are laid, where trenching is allowed, how marine life is protected during construction. These rules vary by region, by nation, but they represent recognition that cable laying affects the marine environment. Even though cables themselves are relatively benign, the process of laying them, of surveying routes, of trenching in shallow water, these activities need oversight, need regulation, need balancing against environmental concerns. Serious multi-cable outages remain rare. Let this reassurance settle gently. Despite all these threats, despite the vulnerabilities, despite the reality that individual cables break regularly, serious disruptions affecting multiple cables simultaneously, these remain uncommon. The redundancy built into the network, the multiple routes between major connection points, the distributed nature of the system, all of this provides resilience. The network survives individual failures, adapts around damage, continues functioning even when components fail. Think about what this means. The threats are real. Fishing gear, anchors, earthquakes, landslides, even the possibility of sabotage. All genuine concerns. But the system is designed to withstand them. Not perfectly, not without disruption, but sufficiently that the global internet continues functioning, that communication persists, that the network proves remarkably robust despite operating in a challenging environment under constant threat. Picture the cables now with this fuller understanding, resting on the seabed, vulnerable to various threats from above and below, yet continuing to function, continuing to carry data, protected by armor, by burial where possible, by monitoring and rapid repair, by redundancy and alternative routes. The infrastructure survives not by being invulnerable, but by being resilient, by being designed to withstand expected threats and recover from unexpected ones. Let these thoughts rest in your mind. The fishing trawls and anchors, the earthquakes and landslides, the occasional curious shark, the geopolitical concerns, the regulations and mapping, all of it part of the complex reality of operating critical infrastructure in the ocean. The threats real but manageable, the vulnerabilities present but not fatal, the system continuing to function through careful planning, quick repairs, and the resilience that comes from redundancy. Rest now with this understanding. The submarine cable network faces many threats, many challenges, but it endures. It functions. It connects our world despite these dangers. The cables protected as well as engineering and regulation can manage. The network designed to survive the inevitable failures. The global internet continuing to flow through glass fibers beneath the sea. Threatened but resilient. Vulnerable but functioning. Connecting continents despite everything the ocean and human activity can inflict upon it. As we drift towards understanding ownership, let's explore a question many never think to ask. Who owns these cables? Who controls the infrastructure that carries so much of the world's communication? The answer is complex, layered, involving corporations and consortia, governments and regulators. The ownership of submarine cables reveals much about how our connected world is structured. Early cables were owned by state telegraph companies. Picture the 19th century, when submarine telegraphy was new. Governments recognized the strategic importance immediately. National telegraph companies, often state-owned or heavily regulated, they built and controlled the early cables. Britain, France, other colonial powers, they used cables to connect empires, to maintain communication with distant territories. Ownership was often national, strategic, tied to imperial ambitions and state interests. But the modern era brought change. Modern systems are often owned by international consortia. Think about this shift gently. As telecommunications privatized, as the internet emerged, as data demands exploded, ownership patterns evolved. Single nations couldn't or wouldn't bear the full cost. And so consortia formed. Groups of companies from different countries, pooling resources, sharing costs and capacity, jointly owning cables that serve their collective needs. Telecom companies, carriers, and tech giants invest together. Picture the partnerships. Traditional telecommunications firms, the companies that once ran national phone networks, they partner with internet carriers, the companies that move data between networks, and increasingly, with tech giants, companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft. These technology companies have become major investors in submarine cables, recognizing that owning infrastructure gives them control, reliability, capacity. The tech giants' involvement has reshaped the industry. They have enormous resources, enormous data needs. They are building private cables, entirely owned, carrying only their own traffic, or they are taking large stakes in consortium cables, ensuring they have the capacity they need. This shift represents a change in who controls global communication infrastructure. Power moving from traditional telecom companies towards technology platforms. Ownership can be divided by individual fiber pairs. Here's where it gets intricate. Let this wash over you softly. A single cable might contain multiple fiber pairs. Perhaps 8 pairs. Perhaps 16. And these pairs can be owned separately. Telecom Company A might own 2 pairs. Telecom Company B might own 3. A tech giant might own 4. Each owner has exclusive use of their fibers, can send their own data, can sell capacity to others. The cable operates as shared infrastructure even though ownership is divided. Landing stations connect undersea cables to land networks. Picture these facilities, often nondescript buildings, located where cables come ashore. Inside, the submarine cables connect to terrestrial networks. The landing stations are critical points, where the ocean infrastructure meets land infrastructure, where international traffic transitions to national networks. Control of landing stations means control of where cables connect. Who has access? How traffic flows from sea to land. These stations house power systems and security. Think about what's inside. The electrical equipment that powers repeaters in the ocean. The optical equipment that sends and receives signals. The security systems protecting against interference. The cooling systems preventing overheating. The monitoring equipment tracking cable performance. Landing stations are sophisticated facilities, expensive to build and maintain, critical to cable operation. Without them, the submarine cables are useless. Regulators oversee permits and landing rights. Governments remain involved, even when cables are privately owned. Think about sovereignty gently. Cables must land somewhere, must connect to national territory, must operate within legal jurisdictions. Regulators control who can land cables, where they can come ashore, what conditions apply. This regulatory power gives governments influence over infrastructure they don't directly own, ensures that private interests align with national interests. Some cables are private, others lease capacity openly. Picture 2 models. Private cables, owned by one company or a small group, carrying only their own traffic. These provide dedicated capacity, guaranteed performance, complete control. Then there are consortium cables, owned by many parties, with capacity leased to anyone willing to pay. These serve broader markets, provide connectivity to smaller players who couldn't afford private cables. The 2 models coexist, serving different needs in the global network. Insurance spreads risk across owners. Think about the uncertainties involved. Cables can break. Repairs are expensive. Revenue might be lost during outages. So owners purchase insurance, sharing risk with insurers who specialize in understanding submarine cable hazards. The insurance industry has developed expertise in this niche. Pricing risk, covering losses, providing financial protection that makes the enormous investments in cables more manageable. Control of routes shapes digital power. Let this understanding settle. The companies and countries that control where cables go, where they land, how capacity is allocated, they hold significant power. A well-connected country attracts digital industries, reduces costs, Improves performance. A poorly connected country faces disadvantages. Higher prices. Slower speeds. Limited access to submarine cable infrastructure affects economic development. Shapes digital opportunities. Influences geopolitical relationships. Think about cable maps with this perspective. The dense connections between wealthy nations. The sparse connections to poorer regions. The patterns reflect not just geography but economics, politics, historical relationships. Investment flows to where returns are highest. Cables connect markets that generate revenue. And so the global network has centers and peripheries, hubs and edges, regions richly served and regions barely connected. Some landing points become critical hubs. Picture places where many cables converge. Singapore, Hong Kong, London, New York. These cities become choke points, places where vast amounts of data pass through. Controlling these hubs means controlling global data flows. The companies that own landing stations in these locations, the governments that regulate them, they hold strategic positions in the global network. The ownership patterns also reflect history. Colonial relationships often predict cable routes. Former colonial powers maintaining strong connections to former colonies. Language communities connected by multiple cables. Trading partnerships reflected in communication infrastructure. The submarine cable network carries within its structure the history of how our world became connected. Patterns established decades or centuries ago persisting in modern infrastructure. New cables continue to be built. Ownership continues evolving. Tech companies increasingly dominant. Consortium models adapting to new realities. Some governments reasserting control over strategic infrastructure. The patterns aren't fixed, aren't final. They are constantly shifting as new cables are laid, as old cables are retired, as economic and political realities change. The map of submarine cables is always becoming, always evolving. Let yourself rest with this complexity. The mixture of private and public. The consortia of competing companies. The tech giants building their own infrastructure. The governments regulating landing rights. The insurance companies spreading risk. All of these players. All of these interests. Combining to create and maintain the submarine cable network. No single entity in control. No simple ownership structure. Just a complex web of relationships and investments. All aligned around the shared goal of maintaining connectivity. Picture the cables now with this understanding. Each one owned by someone. Each one representing investment, strategy, business relationships. Some owned by consortia of dozens of companies. Others privately controlled by tech giants. All of them regulated by governments. All of them insured against risk. All of them part of a complex economic and political structure that enables global communication. The ownership of submarine cables matters. Not to most users. Not in daily life. But it matters strategically. Economically. It shapes who has power in the digital age. Who controls connectivity. Who benefits from data flows. The infrastructure lying peacefully on the ocean floor. It's not neutral. Not unowned. It belongs to specific companies. Specific interests. And that ownership shapes how our connected world functions. Who profits? Who controls? Who has access and who doesn't? Rest now with this understanding, this appreciation for the complexity of ownership, the mixture of public and private interests, the evolution from state telegraph companies to modern tech giants, the regulatory frameworks, the insurance mechanisms, all of it combining to sustain infrastructure that most people never think about. Cables owned by entities few can name, controlled through mechanisms most don't understand, yet essential, absolutely essential, to the functioning of our connected world. As we drift towards the broader picture, towards understanding not just how cables work but what they mean, let's explore the economics, the geopolitics, the future of this hidden infrastructure. These glass threads beneath the ocean. They are more than engineering. They are investments, strategy, power. Let's discover gently what submarine cables reveal about our world. A single new cable can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Let this sum settle softly. To connect continents, to lay thousands of kilometers of cable, to install repeaters, to build landing stations. The total cost can reach 300 million, 500 million, sometimes more. This is infrastructure on a massive scale. Investment requiring either enormous companies, or consortia of many partners, or governments willing to spend public funds. Not everyone can afford to build submarine cables, and this shapes who controls global connectivity. Planning and permitting can take years. Picture the process before a cable is even ordered. Environmental studies, seabed surveys, negotiations with governments for landing rights, securing permits from multiple countries, coordinating with existing cable owners, raising the necessary funding. All of this happens slowly, bureaucratically. The actual laying of cable might take weeks, but the preparation can take 3 or 4 years. Patience required long before the first meter enters the ocean. Systems usually operate for 20 to 25 years. Think about the lifespan. A cable laid today will likely function until the 2040s or 50s. Through that time, technology will change dramatically. User demands will multiply. But the physical infrastructure remains, continues working, continues carrying whatever signals are sent through it. The longevity of submarine cables means we're still using infrastructure from the 1990s. Still benefiting from investments made decades ago. Capacity upgrades often occur without replacing cables. Here's something remarkable. Let this wash over you gently. The glass fibers in a cable from the year 2000. They can carry far more data today than when they were laid. Not because the cable changed, but because the equipment at the ends improved. New lasers sending more colors of light. Better detectors reading finer distinctions. Advanced multiplexing techniques. All of this increases capacity without touching the cable itself. The infrastructure upgrades through innovation at its edges. Optical advances push more data through the same fibers. Picture the progression. A cable that initially carried 1 terabit per second. A few years later, upgraded equipment pushes it to 5 terabits. Later still, 10 terabits. 15. The same glass. The same physical pathway, but carrying exponentially more information. This is why old cables remain valuable. Why systems from 20 years ago still serve the network. The glass itself hasn't become obsolete. Only the equipment surrounding it. Cheap data enables streaming and cloud computing. Think about causation gently. Submarine cables made data transmission affordable. When capacity increased, when competition brought prices down, new services became possible. Video streaming, cloud storage, real-time collaboration across continents. These services exist because transmitting data became cheap enough to support them. The infrastructure enabled the applications, not the other way around. Well-connected countries attract digital industries. This creates geographic patterns. Nations with multiple cable landings, with abundant capacity, with low latency to major markets. They become attractive locations for data centers, for technology companies, for digital services. The infrastructure shapes where industries locate, where jobs are created, where economic growth happens. Connection becomes competitive advantage. Poorly connected regions face higher costs and latency. The inverse is also true. Countries with few cables, regions served only by satellite, places at the end of long infrastructure chains. They pay more for connectivity, experience slower speeds, face disadvantages in attracting digital investment. The digital divide isn't just about devices or skills. It's also about infrastructure, about physical connection to the global network. And submarine cables determine who has that connection and who doesn't. Cable maps reveal dense hubs and fragile choke points. Look at a map of submarine cables with understanding. Some regions show dense webs of connectivity. Multiple cables, redundant paths, rich connection. These are the centers, the hubs. Other regions show sparse lines, single cables, long distances between connections. These are the peripheries. And then there are choke points, narrow straits, where many cables must pass through limited geography. Points of vulnerability in the global network. The Suez Canal, the Straits of Malacca, the English Channel. Many cables pass through these narrow waters. Damage here affects global connectivity. These geographic realities create strategic concerns. Countries controlling choke points have power, the ability to monitor traffic, to threaten cables, to influence global communications. Geography matters even in the digital age. Physical location of infrastructure still shapes power relationships. Think about the future gently. New cables are planned. More capacity will be added. Tech giants continue investing. New routes are explored. Arctic cables as polar ice melts. Cables to previously unconnected regions. The network continues evolving, continues expanding, but the basic technology will remain. Light through glass, cables on the seabed. The innovations will be incremental. Capacity increases, better equipment, but the fundamental infrastructure, that will persist. Climate change brings new considerations. Rising sea levels affect landing stations. Warming oceans might alter cable routes. Melting ice opens new paths, but also new vulnerabilities. Increased storm intensity threatens shallow water installations. The infrastructure must adapt to changing environmental conditions. And the planning for new cables increasingly considers climate projections. trying to build systems that will remain functional in a changing world. Geopolitical tensions shape investment decisions. Countries want control over their connectivity, don't want to depend entirely on cables owned by potential adversaries. This drives investment in new routes, in diverse paths, in cables that avoid certain territories. The network is shaped not just by economics but by security concerns, by political relationships, by the desire for independence in critical infrastructure. Some envision alternatives. Satellite constellations, laser links between platforms, technologies that might someday reduce dependence on submarine cables. These visions exist. Companies are investing, but the economics remain challenging. The capacity advantages of fiber remain overwhelming. For the foreseeable future, 4 decades at least, submarine cables will remain the backbone. The alternatives might supplement, might serve niche markets, but they won't replace. Light in glass threads now carries daily human life across the dark ocean. Let this truth settle. Think about what flows through these cables. Conversations between distant families, business transactions, medical consultations, education, entertainment, news, ideas, the substance of modern life. All of it reduced to light pulses, sent through glass beneath the sea. The cables carry not just data but human connection, human activity, human culture, all flowing constantly through this hidden infrastructure. Picture a single moment. Right now, as you rest, millions of conversations happening through submarine cables, billions of messages flowing, endless streams of video, music, information, all moving as light through glass on the ocean floor. The infrastructure working constantly, reliably, connecting humans across impossible distances, enabling a connected world that would have seemed miraculous just generations ago. The submarine cable network represents a remarkable achievement. Not perfect, not without problems, but functional, reliable, constantly expanding. It connects our world more thoroughly than any previous infrastructure, makes global communication routine, makes distance almost irrelevant for digital interaction. And it does this through patient engineering, through glass and light, through infrastructure resting peacefully in the ocean's darkness. Let yourself rest now with this broader understanding. The economics of hundreds of millions per cable, the geopolitics of strategic infrastructure, the geography of hubs and choke points, the future of continued expansion and adaptation, all of it combining to shape how our world connects, how power is distributed, how opportunities are created or denied. The submarine cables aren't neutral. They carry within them economic logic, political choices, historical patterns, all embedded in infrastructure that seems purely technical, but is actually deeply human. Rest with the knowledge that this infrastructure will continue, will evolve, will expand to serve growing demands, will adapt to changing circumstances. The cables lying on the ocean floor today will likely still be functioning decades from now, and new cables will join them, increasing capacity, opening new routes, continuing the patient work of connecting our world through glass and light beneath the waves. And now, as we drift towards rest, let's take one final gentle journey, back to the ocean floor, back to where these cables rest, back to the quiet continent beneath the waves that we've explored together. This is where our story ends. In darkness and silence, where glass threads connect our world. Once laid, cables may rest untouched for decades. Picture this peaceful existence. A cable settles onto the seabed. The ship moves away. And then, for 20 years, 30 years, perhaps more, that cable simply rests there. No one touches it. No one sees it. No maintenance. No adjustment. Just decades of patient service in darkness. Doing what it was built to do. Carrying light. Carrying data. Carrying connection between distant shores. They carry conversations, memories, money, and knowledge. Think about what flows through these cables. A video call between parent and child on different continents. That's a conversation. A photograph sent across an ocean. That's a memory. A financial transaction moving billions. That's money. An email sharing research. That's knowledge. All of it flowing through the same infrastructure. All reduced to light pulses. All traveling together through glass beneath the sea. The cables don't distinguish. Don't prioritize. Don't judge. They simply carry what's sent. The profound and the trivial. The important and the mundane. Love letters and spam. Life-changing news and idle chatter. All flowing together. All given the same treatment. Light through glass. Carried with the same care. The same reliability. The infrastructure serving humanity without discrimination. They do so silently, unseen, and mostly unremembered. This is perhaps their greatest achievement. To work so reliably they are forgotten. To function so consistently they are taken for granted. Most people never think about submarine cables. Never wonder how their data crosses oceans. Never consider the infrastructure beneath the waves. The cables succeed through invisibility. Through being so dependable they require no thought. The internet's busiest highways lie where no one looks. Let this irony settle gently. The most critical infrastructure of the digital age. The pathways carrying the overwhelming majority of international data. They exist in the least observed place on Earth. On the ocean floor. In darkness humans rarely visit. In pressure humans can barely survive. The busiest highways of the modern world. And they are in the most remote, most mysterious, most unknown realm our planet offers. In the dark, on the ocean floor, the world stays connected. Picture the planet now with full understanding. The continents separated by vast oceans, and yet connected, intimately connected, through glass threads on the seabed, through light pulsing across thousands of kilometers, through infrastructure that works constantly, reliably, invisibly, connecting our world despite the oceans that separate it. The deep secret is revealed now. The truth most people never discover. The internet doesn't float in clouds. Doesn't beam from satellites primarily. It flows through the ocean. Travels as light through glass on the seabed. The World Wide Web is more literal than metaphorical. Threads of glass actually connecting the world. Weaving together nations and continents. Creating connectivity through patient physical infrastructure beneath the waves. Let this understanding rest in your mind. The cables crossing oceans. the repeaters amplifying signals, the landing stations connecting sea to land, the repair ships fixing breaks, the companies owning capacity, the regulations shaping deployment, all of it combining to create infrastructure that connects our world, that enables everything we do online, that makes distance almost irrelevant for digital interaction. And as you drift towards sleep, let yourself appreciate something usually invisible. The engineers who designed these systems, the workers who laid the cables, the crews who repair breaks, the technicians monitoring signals, all the human effort, all the patient work, that keeps this infrastructure functioning, the quiet professionalism that maintains connection, that keeps light flowing through glass, that keeps our world linked despite the separating oceans. Picture the cables one final time, resting on the seabed, in complete darkness, in crushing pressure, in cold that never varies. They rest there patiently, doing their work without complaint, without recognition, without anyone watching, just light pulsing through glass, just data flowing between continents, just the quiet, reliable service that enables our connected world. The ocean floor is the foundation of the digital age, the most modern technology resting in the most ancient realm. Human innovation laid across primordial seabed, glass and light connecting continents across depths unchanged for millions of years. The juxtaposition is beautiful, the newest meeting the oldest, progress resting on permanence, change built on stability. Rest now. Let this story drift away like water flowing into darkness. You don't need to remember the details. Don't need to hold on to facts and figures. Just let it all settle gently, knowing that beneath the ocean, in the quiet darkness, cables rest and work. Light flows through glass. The world stays connected through infrastructure most people never see, never think about, never know exists. Sleep now, peacefully. The cables continue their patient work. The repeaters amplify signals. The light pulses across oceans. The global network functions. And you can simply rest, knowing that some things work, some systems function, some infrastructure endures. The deep secret revealed, the truth discovered, the internet flowing through the sea, through glass on the ocean floor, through light and darkness, connecting our world through the quiet continent beneath the waves. Let it all drift now. The cables, the light, the ocean, all flowing together into sleep. Rest. Peace. The deep secret kept safely by the sea, by the darkness, by the quiet infrastructure that works while you sleep. While everyone sleeps, the cables carrying on, connecting, flowing, being, resting peacefully, forever, in the darkness beneath the waves.